Good morning, Tobago, and welcome this morning to GMT Beneath the Surface. Straight talk, no chaser. I'm your host this morning, Rhea Richardson-George, and really happy to be in your company. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Viewers, we have been having such a time being able to chat with our assemblymen, secretaries, and assistant secretaries as we speak about their accomplishments, achievements, and some of the goals for the future. On our program this morning, we are chatting with Assemblyman Terrance Baynes, Bethel New Grange Electoral District, and he is the Assistant Secretary for the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries, and Urban Development. Good morning and welcome to you. You hold the title Assemblyman Pastor Terrance Baynes.
Good morning to you, Rhea. It is really a privilege and a pleasure to see you, first of all. And of course, good morning to all our viewers and fan-wide, those who subscribe to this medium and so on. And it is, and these conversations, I am sure, are quite acid, especially in the time and seasons that we are in. So I feel very privileged to sit here with you this morning.
All right. Well, again, we are really happy to be able to chat with you. Now, we want to jump right into things. Now, this is Straight Talk, No Chaser.
Right.
Give our viewers an idea this morning of your portfolio as Assistant Secretary for the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries, and Urban Development. What falls under your purview?
Right. Well, of course, you can, the public can appreciate that the Division of Infrastructure is a huge one. My direct responsibility is to oversee maintenance and also and the PR of the division. Of course, maintenance includes public infrastructure, government buildings, and those kinds of things, roads and trains and those kinds of things. I give support in those areas, and then of course to sell the work that the division is doing, so that, and the aim is that the population would have a more intimate knowledge and sense of the kind of work that we've been doing. I think sometimes these things we take them for granted. And even the workers themselves, you need to encourage people when they do their work. And I have to say that from my experience that I have seen that the division does exceptional work. The various units that are there, clearly there are no perfect places, but certainly I have been really elated and encouraged to see the kind of work that has been done in the various units.
All right, and that is as it pertains to what you do now.
Yes.
But give us a little bit of history in terms of Assemblyman Pastor Terrance Baynes, in terms of your political career, because you are probably the only, if I'm mistaken, I stand to be corrected, the only current assemblyman who has held a position in governance. You were senator. You crossed the floor with regards to other political entities.
Yes.
So give us a little bit of background in terms of
Right.
before there was the TPT.
Right. Well, I mean, I always felt that I wanted to make a contribution to the betterment of the space, Tobago particularly. I mean, some I am sure would say, but you've been doing pastoral work. I've been in pastoral work for over four decades, right? That should be enough, But in my minds, I felt that there was more that I could do on the civil side of things. And I clearly was charting, virgin water, so to speak, and didn't know how that would have been possible. But I know deep down in my heart, there was this desire to engage, further, outside of the walls of the church and that kind of thing, and so on. And it is not that while in church we were not doing things outside of the church walls,
Right.
but when I say outside of the walls, I meant outside of the parameters of the church, as we understood it. You understand? And so I got involved in radio. you know, kind of treating with doing the talk show kind of thing and getting a sense of what the pulse of the community is and some of the issues that people call in on a radio program about, you understand? I mean, of course, I did gospel radio too, but I was really enthused by just doing these talk shows that had to do with stuff in the society. And that led me, of course, because, you know, you would have to do your research and those kinds of things to host these types of shows, and you'd have to get as much information as you can. And so as I started gathering information for those talk shows, I started to get a greater, my interests for things in the communities grew. You understand? I never knew where that would lead, but, you know, I just became interested. And we have always been having conversations in the church fraternity about church's involvement in the politics of the day and the politics of the environment. I remember there was a time there was a Christian group in Trinidad that started up, that had a desire to engage and start a political organization. I was a part of that, and we had the meetings and so on. But when the time for the election came, everybody just receded to their traditional places. You understand? So those are conversations that we always having. And then I remembered, I think it could be about 2005 or 2007 thereabout, when Pastor Casey Roberts was asked to run as a candidate for Tobago West. You know, and I was really excited about that. And, you know, so I called a lot of the pastors that I worked with here in Tobago, and we had a meeting. And because I was very naive as well, very naive, because I thought that based on the conversation we were having, because I was also on the executive of the Tobago Pastors and Leaders Fellowship at the time. So I knew the kind of conversation we've been having, how, you know, we feel like we're not really involved as we should be. I've always felt that when the times for politicking arise, that the various candidates engage the church fraternity and get them involved and so on. But after the election is done, the church seemed to be the only entity that's not represented around the table. You understand? Because, I mean, all of us understand that this politics it has to do with people trying to forge ahead with their agenda, the various stakeholders, whether it be business people, whether it be NGOs or whatever. Everybody have their agenda. And I think politicians know that as well. This is why they engage the various entities. So I always felt that the church did not have any formal representation at the table. I always felt that church people were treated as persons who always looking for something and that kind of thing. A handout. I really didn't share that view, because government is supposed to provide resource and support for a community or country to thrive. You know, government is expected to provide basic needs and those kind of things, so that people could actualize and you can enjoy the best life in the community or in the country that you find yourself. The church, as other NGOs, plays its part in keeping this or bringing health to the society. In these churches, you find X this, X that, people that could have been engaged in nefarious activity. Some people in the churches have engaged in activities that were not convenient, that were destructive, but now they've found a new philosophy on life, so now they want to be contributors. So the church was playing its role. The church plays its role in benevolence. The church plays its role in spiritual content. The church plays its role in assisting families. And in what I'm saying generally, the church has a role in the development holistically of the society. So therefore, any kind of support that government can give to the church legitimately is right. Because just as the other entities that are approaching government or that government provides for them to contribute to the building of the society, the church has a role in that as well. And so I felt that the church needed to have a voice, legitimate voice, you know, and not just treated as you know, a second-class citizen and so on, and not just an entity that you blame when there are things in society going awry.
Right.
You understand? I felt that way, but I didn't know how that could happen, honestly, because remember, this is new waters we treading on here.
Right.
We have no point of reference for this. And so I just started. And so when this matter with Pastor Casey arose, I was like dripping with excitement. So I called my friends and the pastors and so on. We had a meeting not too far from here, had a lunch and thing, and we start talking. So I thought, honestly, Rhea, God is my witness, that all the church leaders will galvanize their support behind the man, because the man represented the principles that we were standing for.
The full gospel community.
Exactly.
However,
I did not know how deep political alliances ran when it came to the actual manifestation of the politics.
Even within the church.
So what I'm saying is that there was no in my mind, I felt that even if I had a pension to, let us say, the PNM or the DAC or whatever at the time, right? That those things would have been second place to the man, whoever that man was, that was representing the entity, the church entity, in my view. So I would have always supported that. But of course, that didn't go very well. You know, it did a lot of injury to some relationships. Some people figure that I don't know if you remember, but it made national news and all kinds of stuff.
It did not go the way expected.
Right. But I think in large part that was because of naivety. But I remember that I stood with Pastor Casey. I was the only man there. I was the only man from the church fraternity standing with him when he was doing the campaign. In fact, the first time I stepped on the hustings, you understand, was at that time. And I remember clearly, Mr. Benedict Armstrong, if you're listening or looking at that, good morning to you. He said to me, he said, Pastor, you're sure you know what you're doing? Because when you step out there tonight, there's no coming back, you know. You understand? I mean, he did not know he was being prophetic at the time, nor did I think so. I just felt I was supporting what
and you
we
felt
represent.
very strongly about your position.
Very strongly. And then, you know, I just got more involved, tried to learn more, and I've been around the politics since that time. Different things has happened. I've been in a couple of the political manifestations that we can call opposition politics in Tobago. You know, we had Tough Duck, we had the NAR that I subscribe to in terms of philosophy, we had the TOP, and I have served as members of the executive, a member of the executive in these organizations.
Tobago
and then we had the
Forwards.
Tobago Forwards. And I emerged as the political leader for a very short tour of duty.
Interim political, yes.
You know, and but all these things, I really had no point of reference for the thing. You understand? I really had no point of reference, and you know, they say that pioneers end up with the arrow in their back. You know, you understand? And when you pioneer anything, oftentimes the work that you do is not for yourself; it's for people who come after you. I certainly am not the best representation of a politician from the church fraternity. I mean, and to even overlay that further, to be called a pastor, I mean, that is not just crossing the line, like throwing yourself over the line.
Oh, and I'm glad that you were bringing this to the table here.
Yeah.
What sort of impact has that had?
Yeah.
Because for many years we've known you as Pastor Terrance Baynes.
Yes.
Now you, like I said, you're in the heart of politics.
Yes.
Assemblyman Pastor Terrance Baynes.
Yes.
You know, we tend to think that there is a very thin line between church and state.
Yeah.
What sort of impact has it had on your life?
Well,
the church, your life
yes.
on as a member of the church.
Yes.
What sort of impact?
Yes. I mean, it has been a very difficult journey. I think some of the most painful experiences and the most painful narratives that I have had to contend with since that time came from the church. Right? Remember, historically the church has taught and has believed strongly that politics and pastoring are not good bedfellows, right? They are not, that those are not two vocations that you marry at all.
At all.
It is an unforgivable sin for you to even consider something like that. And remember, in large part too, Christians, people in the full gospel community in large part, who subscribe to politics in an informal way, believe, and I know that by manifestation, that we really don't want you to be in no politics, really, we really, but if you decide, you must support the PNM. You understand? Because these other entities.
Is that how you felt over there?
Yeah. But I mean, remember, I'm in the environment.
Right.
I interface with a lot of people. Yeah, that's and I interface with a lot of church people. A significant percentage of the church believe that if you have to be involved in any politics, it must not be any other entity than the PNM. You understand? And there are reasons for that, you know. There are reasons for that. I don't know if you remember that some years ago, the late Prime Minister Patrick Manning made a public statement that he was a born-again Christian. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
Right? And he has been, engaged and going to churches and so on. So it is obvious that a significant percentage of the church fraternity will gravitate to that. So that is the legitimacy that they think they find.
Do you believe that was him at the time laying the groundwork for politics in the future?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I think it would be kind of reckless for me to conclude what he may have been thinking. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't judge what his heart was about that. But I'm saying that to me was one of the contributors to this day. Why the larger percentage of Christian people who are said to be involved in politics in whatever way, whether informal or whatever, believe that this is the entity that you should engage with. Mm-hmm. You understand? So that aside, you have me now who involved in church, loved by a lot of people across the board, mm-hmm. but people don't really like my politics.
So they love you, but not what you represent or what you stand for.
So, and I have to give people the credit. People have been very tolerant with me. They understand. They've been very tolerant. I have lost a significant amount of pastoral relationships over this thing.
Over politics?
Yes. Relationships and interface with some churches and so on because of belief. I remember I have a very dear friend, and I respect him highly, and he invited me to speak at one of his services, and he told me, say, Baynes, most of my people here support the PNM boy, and I don't know how this thing would go. Understand? No, and that is a responsible position for a leader to have. Because remember, you have a responsibility to manage and oversee the flock, and so you have to make decisions mm-hmm. that do not do injury to the flock. And you can't allow, like, that one incident or that one appointment to do injury or damage to your flock that will take you years to rebuild. So I understood that as well. Notwithstanding, he still allowed me to come, and we had a phenomenal time, because when it comes to the preaching and thing, I don't mix matters with that.
Right.
Nobody.
There is no politics.
No.
There is no party.
No, don't mix matters with that.
No party, no politics.
I just say that is straight without chaser. That is straight without chaser.
Straight without chaser,
yes. So, and I give God thanks because I have the grace for that. So any reference that I make to politics is by virtue of illustration rather than indoctrination. You understand? So that has always been a difficult pastime. And like I said, to date, I have lost some relationships and stuff. But thankfully, there are people who believe in what I'm doing. They may not agree with it, but because they trust my judgment,
yes.
You understand, the relationships that I have developed over the years, they figure that, hey, Baynes is a man that is of age. You understand? And this is the direction that Baynes is going in, so we respect his decision. I may not go in that direction, but we respect that. Okay. You understand? And so that has been very healthy with some of the relationships that I have been able to nurture over the years. So it's been a very dynamic journey, and still is, because a lot of, it is better now, I must concede
You've come a long way.
Yes, we have come a long way from 2005 to now. You understand? And I want to make the point, when I say that I've lost some relationships, it's not like a whole lot, like nobody don't want to see Baynes. That's not what I mean.
Significant relationship.
Yes. You understand?
Okay.
But the thing about it though, I have made new ones along the way.
Okay.
You understand? That's how life is. You lose some, you win some, that kind of thing. And I think now there is I don't know if you notice, Rhea, I have not seen so many Christian people being vocal about politics in my life in this country. Like, no.
Interesting enough, but we're going to continue along that vein when we come back from the break this morning. Viewers, this is Beneath the Surface. Straight talk, no chaser. Join us just after this break.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passions, I say thanks for favor.
Viewers, welcome back to Beneath the Surface. Straight talk, no chaser. We're still chatting this morning with Assemblyman Pastor Terrance Baynes. All right, now just before we took the break, he was making a statement on not having, this first time in a long time that he's seen the amount of Christian people coming to the fore. Let's go back to that issue. Their voices now being heard.
Yes. I mean, most of the voices, when you look at it, are pro-PNM voices. But I'm not too upset with that, because there were hardly any voices before.
That's right.
No,
the church was silent.
Very silent.
As it pertained to politics, the church was silent on almost every issue.
Indeed. No, you could say that is just bias. You could say that because of the evidence is there. It's just but you know, I am optimistic. I think the fact that we're having the conversations, that eventually we will have meaningful discourse on both sides about the politics of the land, right? Because there are people who do not subscribe to the PNM and vice versa. That's just, you have a right to subscribe to whoever you want to subscribe to.
That's right.
I think that we have to get away though, as the church, in trying to spiritualize the thing. You understand? Because I don't know if you've seen that. We have seen people sending out texts about, the UNC being a Hindu government and they worshiping. I don't know if you've seen. They send me texts, and this is why they should not support that.
Stories,
yes. And so a lot of those things, and so they give the impression that if you support the PNM, that is a Christian band. That is not true. No,
and any alliance with
you understand. So if you have a problem with people of Hindu persuasion, and you have a problem, because of the way they worship and whatever else, and you're saying because they are idol worshippers and whatever, which is what Christian people say. That is what Christian people say, and that in large part contributes to their support for the PNM. When you have Emancipation Day, that's a perfect example. When all the Christians of African descent dress in the nice African regalia, they stop at these points and they do these libations and these things, and Christian people of African, not Christian, but people of African descent engage in ancestral worship, they engage in paganism, the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't use that as an argument. When you go to the Dr. Rhea, you don't go on and be concerned about whether they have a cross, a swastika, a hammer and sickle, or a half moon on the wall. You go to the doctor, and based on their qualification and their ability to deal with whatever is the matter, you go to them with. When you go to the grocery store or whatever store, you don't go behind them to see who they does worship.
So you're saying here that politics
is not a church. It's not a church. It is not a church, right? So it is good to have Christian people in the politics. You understand? Because remember, we are called upon to be the light of the world. So your views and values, you bring that to the profession.
Okay.
You understand? But we have to make the distinction and do not, misjudge people on the wrong premise. That is the point I want to make.
Okay.
You understand? And none of the entities are Christian. If you subscribe to the PNM because that is the political philosophy that you like, that is fine. the law and everything. You are an adult that affords you that, but you have to also respect the other people who do not have
That's
that
right.
view. You understand? And it is as simple as that. And I think we need to get over that hurdle so that we have the right kind of conversations as to how we could develop and build this society.
All right.
Yes.
A lot happening here, and that you said a lot there. And we're going to
Yes.
get back to some of those issues in a little while. And again, I like the position that we applaud you for the position that you have taken. And I want to go back to 2024 with the reshuffle,
Yes.
the THA reshuffle. Back then you held the position of Secretary for Community Development. Some saw it as a demotion.
Yes.
I know you may have spoken to the issue, but what sort of impact did that reshuffle have on you, your electoral district?
Yes.
And what was the mind behind it?
Yes.
When you heard about it, how did you find out about the reshuffle?
Well, all of us who sign on.
Not even how did you find out about the change in position, your change in position?
Right. I need to preface that by saying that all of us who have been afforded the privilege to be a part of the government knew from the onset that we will serve at the behest of the Chief Secretary.
So whatever.
The rules...
Which is what this is the position all of the assemblymen have taken
The
so
rules
far.
provides that the Chief Secretary is the one who chooses who he wants to put where. He can put this person, he can move that person. That's what the rules provide for.
Right.
So in the back of our minds, when we were asked to serve in whatever capacity, we all knew that. You understand? Obviously, if you are a secretary and you are moved to an assistant secretary, there are some issues that you would have to contend with personally as a human being.
Yeah.
Because you're going to, and any human being will deal with that. So I have tried to manage those things the best way I could. I know people have made judgments about me and whatever, but you can't efficiently make a judgment except you go through that experience. Right? I think I have always tried to see the organization and the government, what the government is trying to accomplish and what part I could play in that. You understand? I kid you not, it has been a difficult time. I have never experienced anything like that in my entire life. You understand? Because you feel humiliated, you feel incompetent and all these other things. And people help you to feel it too. You understand what I'm saying? But you have to manage those things.
As far as you were concerned, were you performing at the top level of Baynes, or is it that you were not performing?
Well, I mean, I don't really want to go into that too much, but I will say that as far as I felt, I was doing the work the best way. I understood what was asked of me to do.
Right.
You understand? There are several things, a lot of things that I didn't understand about the public service and those kinds of things. A lot of us in the government were new to governance. You understand? And understanding the way the public service work, the interface that is supposed to take place with the people that carry out the functions in the division and those kinds of things. Albeit, remember, the Chief Secretary oversees the government, looks at whatever, and he makes a decision. My personal feeling really doesn't take center stage in that. You understand? He has a government to run, and how he sees the government is going to be most efficient. He makes those decisions. You understand? All of us will hope that however those decisions are made, they are made in a way that there is no unnecessary hurt and unnecessary pain and those kinds of things. All of us hope that. That doesn't always happen. You understand? And I think what I have learned, this vocation called politics is for big people. This is not for children, you know. This is not child's play. People get all people get all excited when they see a man in a suit and driving around in a black vehicle and whatever else, and people get all excited and aspire to be that. right? But there are some times in the profession where you are called upon to make adult decisions. You are called upon to subject your personal feelings and do the government work.
Question. How did you find out about the reshuffle? Were you informed before it was made public? Did you find out on the same day, same time as the public? How were you informed?
I had,
because there are a lot of questions behind that reshuffle.
I will say that we had conversations, and there were maybe some aspects of the thing that I wasn't privy to. You understand? Nonetheless, I am back to the same point that the chief secretary reserves the right to make these kinds of decisions.
Yes.
You understand? And that is why he makes them, because he has the right to make them. You understand? So I think the issue about some of the intricacies of this whole thing, I don't want to ventilate that extensively, in all honesty.
Okay.
Right? I think that I consider myself very privileged. I am very, very honored to have, listen, in any society here, a minuscule amount of people get the opportunity to be an area representative, much less to be in part of government, in terms of percentage. In Bethel New Grange, right, in the history of the THA, I am number 8 to represent Bethel New Grange. You understand? And I have been privileged to work in a district where people have contributed, and I've had the opportunity to come and bring what Baynes could bring. Hopefully, this brings betterment to the district of Bethel.
And what has Baynes been able to bring, as being the 8th to serve within the THA? What has Assemblyman Baynes been able to bring to Bethel New Grange that did not exist before? What have you been able to add?
Well, the time Baynes comes onto the landscape, there are things that are existing that did not exist before, that some of my predecessors did not have to deal with. Remember, we're now coming out of COVID. This is 2021 we're talking about, right? We're now coming out of COVID. So people's concerns are basic issues, food and basic sustenance, survival. There are no jobs around and those kinds of things. An enormous amount of young men and young women on the block just, a very frustrating time. Bethel is one of those, Bethel New Grange, well, Bethel specifically because it is the most accentuated part of the district, is noted, there are some stigma with that particular area of the constituency. There are some areas that are called hotspots. Yes. Right? And in every country it have them. So Trinidad have their hotspots, Tobago has its, I don't really call them hot, I call it a high needs community.
So you refer to Bethel as one of those?
Yes, a high needs community. And one of the first things that was concerning to me, apart from what I just mentioned, we have the penchant to have these violent flare-ups from time to time, claiming in large part sometimes the lives of young people. You understand? Violence, fighting and gun violence. And of course, we have a problem with drug use and alcohol use and those kinds of things. So one of my first mission was, I started a series called Intervention. I Am My Brother's Keeper. The intention was to try and encourage the young people, because there's an enormous amount of frustration in the average society coming over COVID. Everybody knows that. Right. The demands are high, higher than normal. You understand? And so we started that. We use sport. I brought in, you could call some successful or on the way to success young people, you understand, from a myriad of vocations to come and just to talk to everybody on the block and that kind of thing, encourage them, you understand, to let them know that, hey, you could really do something better with your life and so on. And that went well. Then we did some I remember we had a prayer session on the block specifically as part of the intervention. And then I crowned it off by shooting a music video on the block. You know, all those things were just to
Improve morale.
yes, and encourage. And then of course we started to do. Remember, at that time we were in the 6-6 period, in office but not in power.
Right. And I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah.
In office but not in power.
Yes. And so all 6 of us then were trying to do what we can and see how we could serve our community and so on. And my very first project was the installing lights in the Susseland Green Space or the Susseland Park, right? There are some people that live to the east of the park who reached out to me and say, well, you know, Pastor, we find this place so dark and so on, you know, could you do anything about it? And then there was a young man who said to me that his father got robbed around the same area. So I said, you know, I started talking to some people in the community, some friends and some of my family members and whatever, and I asked everybody if they could donate one light. You understand? The lights were costing about 2,300 installed, right? And you know, I always try to lead by example. So I say I put in the first 2. So I bought the first 2 and whatever, and then everybody, I got 6 other people to contribute. We installed 8 lights in the park. Doing great. However, I mean, that had its own controversy when we were doing it and all that, but we were able to do that. We got the permission to do it from the cooperative at the time. And so we did that and so on. You know, then I realized that I'm missing a light, you pass, and then I realized that somebody been going and taking down the lights, you know, until they just left 1 light up.
Wow.
Right? At the time, I didn't have the resource to replace them. Because, of course, you know, we didn't have any resource. Whatever personal little monies we have, we trying to run a district office, and the needs continue to be great, right? I remember there was one thing about that 6-6 thing that stays with me and was perhaps the most encouraging. I got a call from Assemblyman Megan Morrison about a family living up in the Mount St. George area. And we went and was looking at it. And I know they reached out and Megan has been assisting in the best way she could and that kind of thing. And the lady actually was from Bethel. And when I went to the place, there was this family of husband, wife, and 2 children living in a concrete structure about 8 by 8. No windows, just a door. Everything by it. I was like, geez, and ages, how we could do about this. And so we started seeing what we could do and whatever. While walking in the community, I saw a boathouse, right? I saw a boathouse. So I asked the man, I say, what are you doing in our boathouse? He said, yeah, but the boathouse, because that window was much better, in my view, to what they were living in. I said, how much you want for that boathouse? The man said he want at 3,500 or something, but not a whole lot of money. But of course, at that time, 3,500, you have to be a multi-thousandaire to afford that during that 6 period because of how we were stretching every dollar. Dr. Faith was the area representative at that time because they had changed the boundaries a little bit and so on. And we did a online concert to try and raise money. The thing that is real, that I really want to bring out about that is perhaps one of the greatest part of my representation to me is that I was saying, God, how we could help these people, how, right? And I was somewhere and I got a telephone call. A lady called me from the States and said she's on the train going from work, and she said that God talked to her and told her and said, call Pastor Baynes and give him some money. Right? And she called, that woman said 1,900 US for me.
Wow.
Right? I went down by the house one time, you know, and blessed the other members of the team at the time and so on. When I getting ready now we're looking now to get transportation to move the house to the spot, members of the fire service pass in there, see the house, see the condition and talk to the people and whatever. And the members of the fire service build a brand new 2-bedroom house to the people.
Wow.
Right? So hear the joke now. So I gone back going for the house that I buy. When I'm going back looking, all I see is stakes. I can't see the house nowhere. I don't know if they sell the house to somebody else. So that's a story by itself. You understand?
Not sure what to make of it. Not at all sure what to make of it. But we've got to take a break here. We've got to take a very quick break. And that is you would class that as one of your achievements and one of your accomplishments.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Being
so
able to
much
support
more.
this family.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
But we're going to come back. But we want our viewers online to know, and this is Carl Hector. We're going to come to your question in just after the break, and we're going to talk a little bit about the other about 9 persons offering themselves for nomination within the party against Assemblyman Baynes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and those and some other issues when we come back from the break this morning. So remember, viewers, it's Beneath the Surface, straight talk, no chaser. Join us after this.
We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we stronger. I'm melanated one. We special.
Viewers, welcome back to Beneath the Surface. We're still chatting this morning with Assemblyman Terrance Baynes, Assemblyman Pastor Terrance Baynes. He will forever be. And just before we took the break, we mentioned that we want to take some of the questions that were fielded from via the live YouTube and Facebook. Pastor Baynes, Assemblyman Baynes, has also offered himself. He's thrown his hat into the ring to represent Bethel New Grange yet again. However, this time around, there are 9 other persons who have thrown their hats into the ring as well, contesting his position. One of those persons, Aloy Westfield, it is now being brought to attention, has also been dismissed. The question being posed, I'll read the question from the viewer on the live. Question coming in from Carl Hector. Why you fire Mr. Aloy Westfield,
right.
who again happens to be one of those persons who's thrown his hat into the ring? So what is the story behind this?
Well, first thing I want to say to Carl that we better than this for you to bring this out here. We could have talked this elsewhere. I didn't want this to come out here, but as you asked the question, every area representative, every secretary or assistant secretary, you are afforded what we call personal staff.
Right.
People that you choose, people that you trust, and they have various responsibilities. You have a personal secretary for the assistants, you have an executive officer, you have, in Mr. Westfield's case, a personal assistant.
Right.
Personal assistant.
He was your personal assistant.
Aloy has been my personal assistant since 2021. Now, your personal assistant is just that. They know a significant amount about your personal stuff. You understand? Right. And your personal assistant has to be somebody that you trust.
Right.
Has to be. Right? I would like to think that I am a reasonable man. I have been hearing some things about my personal assistant, but I really didn't give those things I really didn't. I don't like to make decisions based on hearsay either.
Right.
There were a couple of incidents in the office, things that he did that I know for sure, that in my mind could have been fireable things. But I did not think, I don't think.
Is it that you lost trust in Mr. Westfield?
The point I'm coming to now is that now when you will remember that coming out of the situation, moving from community demand, the personal toll that took on me, I went to the chief secretary and told him, listen, I don't think that I really want to continue doing this, right? I don't think that I would offer myself again because of how I was feeling at the time. And for those who judge that, I think you only have the capacity to judge that efficiently if you actually were in that situation.
Right.
Albeit subsequent to that, some months after, there are some persons that came to me and say, Baynes, I remember this one man, he said, Baynes, I know what you say that you don't want to be involved again and whatever, but the question you have to ask yourself is, did the people reject you? That is the question you have to ask yourself, right? Did the people reject you? And I really couldn't answer at the time. And I've had several, I kid you not, who have said to me, you need to reconsider this position. You need to reconsider this position, which I did. And I went to the chief secretary and I told him, and he instructed me what I should do for that to happen. So I've been along that line. But I'm saying that to say that public announcement, I believe, made a lot of people want to put themselves up to be represented. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Even my
part of democracy.
Right. Even my personal assistant, if he had that desire at that time, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You understand? And but I remember when I made the decision, I sat down with my personal staff, everybody, him included, and told them, listen, this is what I have decided and whatever. So we've been going along, right? We do what we do. He's been a part of the team, everything that we do.
Right.
He never came to me, Rhea, God is my witness, never came to me and said that he had a desire to run for the district. I find that out from people.
Okay, was that the reason for the firing?
No, what I'm saying is that I asked him when I was hearing this stuff, you know, I hearing this thing, he said, we will talk about it. So I didn't push him. So we have a chat in which, you know, we communicate with everybody what we're doing. And I saw, I think it was the day before the final day of the screening or some of the nomination rather, that he deleted himself from the chat. So when I saw that, I called him. I said, what does this mean? And he said that on that, and this was the day after he did the nomination,
Right.
that he decided that he is going to offer himself. Now, Rhea, let's be reasonable. How could you trust somebody like that to be your personal assistant from that point? How?
So it was at this point
Yes.
that you lost trust.
Yes. No, well, I mean, I like I said, I had my concerns, but not concerns to fire a man.
Right.
You understand? But this came to a head in my view at this time, because I knew that he spoke to several other people and he never told me anything. So it made me feel like I don't know what he was doing in the office, whether he was gathering information. If he go use that against whatever.
Right.
So I told him, I say, listen, I hope you understand by how you have dealt with this, that this means that you can no longer be my personal assistant. That I don't know that can be unreasonable. You understand?
And what was his response?
And his response to me was that he doesn't think so. Right?
He didn't see any conflict of interest.
Yeah, he didn't see any issue with that. So I told him, I said, brother, I'm giving you until the end of the day to do the honorable thing.
Which was?
Right? The honorable thing to resign. I mean, you understand? Because there's no way I could trust. Remember, it's my personal assistant you're talking about.
Yes, not just a member of your team.
And so I wrote him, and I suspect that, you know, that is the document, because I wrote him and the document is, you know, would have to go through all the channels. So people, I am sure, will be sympathetic. They go say Baynes is a wicked man, and because they don't know the whole story. And I didn't want to ventilate this here, but because cars bring it up. You understand? And I know that is one of the things that people are speaking about in the village and whatever, but they don't know the whole story. I don't want to get into this kind of thing. I really don't.
All right. Now, I want to shift gears here a little bit, and I'm glad that you dealt with that issue. But shift gears here in terms of some of the other accomplishments. I mean, should you be re-elected? Should you be given a second term in office, another term in office? What would you want to see come to fruition? What are some of the maybe one or two initiatives that you would have been a part of that you feel would put you on a good footing or good standing within the community?
Right. Well, I mean, there are things that we have to continue, right? Infrastructure things, those are things those are ongoing things, right? In that same Susseland's Park, I have the idea of putting in like a rotunda, a stage, and some bathroom facilities in that park area. We discussed it already, and so on. I wrote to the group that is responsible, that oversees the park. They have not responded to me, but that is something that I would have liked to see, and would like to see some more employment, meaningful employment in the district. Since we've started from 2021 to present, we have been able to find jobs for about 273 people in the district of Bethel New Grange, right? All of them have not been permanent jobs, but, you know, people have been able to get to put food on the table, so to speak, that kind of thing by that, right? There's a project pending under the purview of settlements, a housing project in the Canby area, which I know will can and should produce some economic activity for the people in and around that area and that space and so on. People with the various skill sets and whatever other attendant things that comes with a development of that nature, right? And also to find a perhaps unique, workable, and efficient program to treat with despair among youths and the management of substances and so on, and pointing them in a direction for betterment in their life and to be contributors in the society. You understand? We up on that Egypt block there, I have lost 2 friends to gun violence, right? And that is why the thing it impacts me, right? And I have seen some of the guys who people say have this propensity to be engaged in all kind of behavior that is not convenient, but have tremendous potential if given the opportunity. You understand?
Okay.
You know, and we have tried to help. We've tried to help. I mean, some of them still end up back on the block and think, but you try your best to do what you can. One thing that I didn't accomplish, and that shouldn't even be one that I shouldn't accomplish. One of the guys said to me, Pastor, you need to come and hold a 3-night revival on this block. You understand? I mean, we've been doing preaching thing and gospel thing the only time. So in my mind, you understand, that is the only one of the things that I didn't do up there that I think maybe I should have. You understand? But all in all, it has been...
Is it too late?
No, it's not. It's not. You know, the people of Bethel New Grange have graced me with the opportunity to represent them, right? They are the ones that hired me, and they are the ones certainly that can fire me. You understand?
Right.
Like I said, I am coming on the heels of Miriam Caesar Moore, Henry James. Then we had Miriam Caesar Moore again. Then we had Deborah Moore Miggins, I'm sorry. Then Miriam Caesar Moore again. And then we had Mr. Whitney Alfred. We had Mr. Handel Beckles. We had Mr. Shomari Hector. And now Terrance Baynes. You understand? And everybody, I believe, has made their contribution to the area. Right? And people will judge what Terrance Baynes has done. And if people feel that I have outlived my usefulness in this vocation, then they will make that choice.
Are you satisfied? Are you personally satisfied with your representation? Yes or no?
Yes. I mean,
what grade would you give yourself then?
I give myself about a 70.
A 70.
Yeah.
That would be on the scale of A to F. That would be somewhere what? CD.
That is like maybe a B plus or A minus, somewhere up there. A B plus or A minus, 70, they're about.
70?
Yeah.
B plus?
B plus.
C? B plus? Okay.
Yeah, they're about, you know. So, I want to make it clear, that I am eternally grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Eternally grateful. It has not been an easy road and all of that, but I am eternally grateful. One, for the opportunity to serve as the area representative. Secondly, for the decision that the Chief Secretary made to afford me the privilege to serve in the government, regardless of all the other things. I am eternally grateful and will never, ever forget this opportunity that was given to me. I got here by the providence of God, not by skill and rhetoric, not by political press, None of them things. It is God that allowed me the privilege to be in this spot, right? And I give him thanks all the time for this opportunity. And just as he has allowed me, you know, when the time has come for me to move off into the sunset, I shall do so with grace in Jesus' name.
Amen. But before the amen to that. However, in terms of your goals, should you be re-elected, what would you offer the people of Bethel New Grange that you were not able
Right.
to offer before?
Well, there are some things that kind of went awry. You know, I was able to have a conversation and a relationship with Habitat for Humanity, and they came and launched a greenhouse up by the Bethel Community Center, and it was doing great, managed by the village council. They will sell the produce and that whatever income assist them in doing what they're doing at the village council and so on. And then the greenhouse became the subject of vandalism and that kind of thing. And that is a project that I would like to see restarted. I know there's been some work, the village council has been doing their work to try and get some support for all of that. You know, that I would like to see restarted. I would like to see, as I said earlier, the additional infrastructure go into the green space without compromising the space, right? Washroom facilities and so on. I would like to see as well an expansion of the facility and on the grounds added to the walk around park. We were having a conversation about a play park to the western side, so that the kids could, you know, while the adults may be walking and that kind of thing, a play park, and also some seating facilities around. I know the Division of Community Development have been considering putting in some seating facilities down by the basketball court area. Those things are things that will benefit the society, right? And then overall to try and, because there are some infrastructure things, you know, and try and lobby for as much of the services that government provide, that the people of the district can take full advantage of those services.
Okay.
That is what is in my mind.
All right. But we want to thank you so much. I see a question coming in here very quickly, and I think you may have alluded or spoken to some of these issues before. And this is coming in from Newton George. Since you became an assemblyman and an assistant assemblyman, okay, can you name two of your main achievements? And I think you may have spoken to some of that, but just to reiterate.
I don't know if they're talking about in the district or in the division. What?
I'm not certain. It is not clearly identified here. But you spoke to both. You know, your role as assemblyman. Assistant secretary and your role as assemblyman. So you did speak to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I could just quickly say the work at the division has been meaningful work. It's been a learning curve. I mean, I've learned so much. The leadership of Secretary James is exceptional in terms of rearranging the division and the units and so on, accentuating the skills of the people that work in the division, giving them an opportunity to do the work, things that they qualified for them to engage those things. You know, the realignment has been amazing. Interfacing with the URP and so on, Mr. Leong and his team, and that kind of relationship in getting work done in the various communities and so on. I am always more these days out in the field than anything else, checking on the projects and that kind of thing, and seeing for myself where the projects are, talking with the various supervisors and seeing what in my capacity I can provide them with to get the job done more efficiently, you know, because some of the logistical challenges that they face, it's difficult for them to be on the work, doing the work while doing some of these other things. You understand? Okay. So those things have been, I believe, very helpful. I also believe that highlighting the work and doing some video footage and so on, and we had a thing called we had a countdown of 10 projects and that kind of thing, and all those things to kind of give the population, to sensitize the population to the nature of the work that the division has been doing. There's been a feeling that the division don't have the capacity to do some works, and we have dispel that notion by what we've been able to do and so on, and to highlight it to people that, listen, we really have people that are qualified in the divisions across the THA. And if they are given an opportunity to shine, they will prove that they are worth the salt in large part. And I think it has been an amazing journey doing that, and working with the different people and learning a whole lot of things about how a division like infrastructure works. And of course, working with Secretary Trevor Williamson-James. That is something else.
Thank you for that. What has been the major challenge, one major challenge to accomplishing some of these goals?
Yeah. Well, I think understanding the philosophy of the division, understanding, because remember, we come into a division that works, that have a history and a culture, right? And you can't try to be no hero and try you could change everything in one time. And there are some things that are culturally enshrined in the workings of the division, and we have to try with our personality and our interface and all that, and to see how we can get maximum results from our efforts. And I believe one of the major tools in doing that is the relationship that we have with the workers and the officers that execute the job.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Assemblyman Pastor Terrance Baynes, for taking the time to chat with us this morning on, your accomplishments and achievements and the goals should you be given another term in office. Viewers, we've got to leave it there for today. We really want to thank you for joining us. But please know that tomorrow we are expected to have on set with us Assemblyman Trevor James. All right.
Trevor Williamson-James.
Trevor Williamson-James. I don't see it on the flyer, but we're going
to... No, put that in. That song good enough. That song real good enough. I had to find... The reason why it doesn't put in my middle name, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound fashionable.
What is it? But what is it?
Larry. That don't sound good. It don't sound good. Terrance Larry Baynes. That don't sound good. It's not fashionable. So I don't see that.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman Pastor Terrance Larry Baynes, for being with us. We look forward to chatting with Assemblyman Trevor Williamson-James tomorrow on Beneath the Surface. Straight talk, no chaser. Tobago, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.